The Wisconsin Department of Justice is joining 26 other states in suing the Trump administration, saying Washington is threatening to hold back safety and counterterrorism grants unless states change how they run elections. Mary Piacenti is in the newsroom with more about this case. Mary.
Cammie, states involved are saying the administration is tying emergency funding to election conditions, including a switch to paper ballots and a turning over of a list of all verified voters to the federal government. The lawsuit challenging the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Department of Homeland Security's conditioning of grant money, claiming it violates the Administrative Procedure Act and the U.S. Constitution's spending clause.
So this is another attempt from the federal government to mess with elections, which it doesn't have the authority to do. And it's not through threatening to withhold funds, using the process available under our Constitution for making change to policy.
The funds at stake are appropriated to states for emergencies, natural disasters, and terrorism, including $7 million in Homeland Security grants and 20% of Wisconsin's counterterrorism funding. The administration saying the move is because states have failed to adequately verify citizenship in elections.
And the reality is that we have safe and secure elections in Wisconsin. We have had a lot of close elections. Sometimes those have led to recounts. Other times they've led to litigation, sometimes both. And consistently, our process has been shown to be safe and secure.
U.S. Representative Tony Weed declining to address the lawsuit when asked about it Friday, and instead citing previous federal action.
I'll let the administration speak to those actions, but we were able to secure funding from FEMA for the the tragic flooding that we had here in northeastern Wisconsin, and President Trump delivered.
The Wisconsin DOJ joined similar lawsuits to this one back in 2025, making this another claim in an ongoing fight about federal election authority. Chris?